Welcome to TradeNBI.com. This is John's reports for the 2nd of March. Wow, what a beginning of the month. So we hit that 50% and people saw that as an opportunity discount. Like I mentioned, we were in this DOC completely reset here and couldn't get a short confirmation because we wouldn't get the crossover, and that just caused a significant turnaround. We also weren't below the red line at any point. We'd already retested that and brought, well, that was a pretty significant day. I mean, this can happen though as you get towards the peak. Now, getting a GAM above the 50%, in fact above the 76, bodes well to a move towards the 100%, particularly when you're this soft into the DOC reset. So there's plenty of room for this to make new highs without any question. Literally what we're going to need to see though is when cyan meets the green and whether or not we get a rejection there. We're not overbought in any way, so you would think that after a massive move like that, something like that would cause overbought to not take place from an extreme standpoint. So it was pretty consistent, but historically getting a GAM anywhere above 50% usually leads to a move towards the 100%. And from an NQ standpoint, not too different. We're just far weaker. It was further down, but it also full seam reset and actually below the negative 13, so potential is much better. Now we had a series from the NQ of negative dips below the 60 here, and that usually ends up creating retests of those lows. So we'll be watching for any softness that develops in this. This has got a much bigger way to go to get that crossover to prevent the rejection, as well as you have short-term buyers are really starting to get to a peak. It can still keep going, you can see from previous times. So it's just a matter of waiting for that. If it breaks above the plus 13, then I think things are a little bit weaker than some might suggest, because once you break down below that, you tend to get this kind of setup where it breaks down further. And of course, that bullishness continue to put pressure on gold to the south side, and you're not getting any help from like a Bitcoin in that, because after it made its attempt, had the short, it retested off this previous algo, popped off that, hit the 50K algo, and has struggled right there. So that's interesting. I don't know how relevant it is to anything right now, because again, there's just nowhere to get yield other than the market at this particular stage. Now that could start to change as the treasuries start to have problems. So we'll see. It's still an undetermined thing. It's really a question of what happens with all of this stimulus, and if it's going to be the full size and go to so many other broad things. It's not going to have much economic impact as much as just adding to debt. So from a euro standpoint, again, it got way out of whack for where it needed to be, and so we're just right back in. This is still elevated, but it's been an expressed weakness. I mean, we had the rejection right here, and this is what I'll be looking at for the daily on the ES and the NQ, is when they meet, do you get that full separation where the green continues to go, or you get this rejection spider effect, and that usually leads to significant weakness. So look at this intraday, and this isn't even reduced. So we started off clean buy setups going through, though we didn't have any steel reset equivalent. It just got to the point where you ended up with the green over cyan literally at the open of the session, and then went below red. So always a buy at that point, and that just took us to the 100%. And then every time we got a DSC spread, while they were legitimate, they just weren't getting any confirmation from a power mode 2 from the, yes, you broke below 13, but you're not getting any support with the magenta crossing to give a clear signal. So to me, it's one of those where that I'm just looking for the buy configuration that happened exactly on the algo level. Take that for what it is. Same thing when the cyan dips below red, right at previous algo levels, and then we just continued to cross. I didn't even bother to mark them at that point because we were mostly just cyan under red throughout all of it. It wasn't until the end of the day right over here that we started to get some legitimate weakness. Of course, I get into this setup and my system crashed, but wasn't a problem. I had to stop all the way up in the 3920 range just as a precaution always. But we made a pretty significant dip coming through there. It bounced back, and then as soon as pre-market started, we started filling back all the little positives, but they were already on previous algo levels, so it wasn't really worth marking anything new from that setup. It's just a matter of seeing that clean breakdown sliding, and here we are. We had nice improvement from DOC Red, just hasn't produced much of a return, more likely just a 50% move back up from that. So we'll be looking at that 3891 here, if it can sustain it, or if we start to see a rejection at that particular point, that could take us right back to the lows, from a pre-market standpoint at least. So that's the long and the short of it. Beautiful action, pretty plain, easy to see, so no real difficulties from that aspect. As always though, as long as my system stays up, I'll be on this Skype chat, putting up anything relevant. We'll talk soon. Trade well.